I knew something was off the moment I stepped into the San Diego boardroom and saw a gluten-free fruit tray and a laminated sign that said, "Welcome Aspen" in Comic Sans, no less. At Kelridge Tech, fruit trays only appear when someone's getting canned or when the CTO's toddler accidentally sends a company-wide fart meme. This time, it was me, Denise Harper, age 54 VP of Strategic Operations, with 14 years under my belt. "We're so grateful for your impact," cooed Olivia from HR, blinking like she practiced sincerity between TikToks. "But with the company's new direction and a focus on modern leadership, it's time for change. Change into what a LinkedIn hallucination." Then she walked in Aspen Vale 24 with platform sandals in January and a blazer cropped so high I could see her Wi-Fi password tattoo. "Hi, I'm Aspen," she said, like she was pitching a candle line. Super passionate about synergy vibes and monetizing momentum. No resume, just a golden retriever, smile a business degree she got 3 months ago, and a father with enough capital to buy the building. If you're still listening and not doom scrolling, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button. Only 3% do, and let's be honest, we run on coffee, quiet revenge, and your comments. Anyway, she took my office. Literally. Same chair, same view I won in the 2015 renovation brawl when they tried to ban blinds for brand transparency. I hadn't even cleared out before she asked to rebrand my Outlook signature. I packed in silence. No drama, no farewell speech. Just my lucky stapler, a photo of me and Sergio from legal at the Investor Summit, and a battered leather Rolodex into a cardboard box that smelled like endings. What they didn't know, that Rolodex wasn't nostalgia, it was the system. Birthdays, food allergies, golf handicaps, kids' names, all handwritten, not in Salesforce, not on the cloud. Mine. As I passed Aspen, she didn't even glance up, probably too busy boomeranging her oat milk chai. I nearly pitied her. Almost. I left through the side door. No goodbyes. The execs wouldn't have noticed. I'd been invisible ever since I stopped laughing at their golf jokes. But they'd notice soon enough, because I wasn't just an employee. I was the architecture, and they just tried to boot the system with a vision board and a TikTok trend. They wouldn't have noticed. I'd been invisible ever since I stopped laughing at their off-color golf jokes and started showing up with results instead. Outside, the late-day sun hit just right as my phone buzzed. A text from Everett Langston, one of our most prickly high-stakes investors. It read simply, "What happened?" No punctuation, no emoji. For Everett, that was basically a panic attack. I didn't answer. Just stood under the palm trees outside Kelridge Tech, clutching a box full of institutional memory, and smiled for the first time that day. They thought they fired an employee. What they actually did was unplug the hard drive. And now, they were going to try to reboot the system with a vision board and a TikTok tutorial. Funny thing about getting fired. No one tells the office plants. Mine, an off-balance pothos named Clyde, drooped like he knew. I gave him one last drink from my emergency mug, then gently teased his roots out of the IKEA pot I'd brought from home 14 years ago. Everything else went into the box. A cracked glass ampersand paperweight, a mint tin full of ancient thumb drives, and that beat-up Rolodex with corners curled like old paperbacks. That Rolodex held more sway than our CRM ever did, not just contacts connections. I didn't just know the clients, I understood them. No farewell cupcakes, no awkward speech. Just silence so thick it bounced off the hallway tiles. A few coworkers peeked out as I walked by. No one said a word. You'd think I was a ghost with a severance package. At the end of the hall, right outside the exec wing, I paused. The whiteboard was gone, replaced by a pastel vision board labeled "Joyful Goals" in bubble letters, and a rose quartz diffuser puffing lavender mist like corporate incense. And that's when it hit me. They hadn't just fired me. They replaced legacy with lifestyle. I didn't look back. Didn't need to. The doors closed behind me with a soft, magnetic hum. Down in the lobby, I set the box on a granite bench and caught my reflection in the glass. I didn't look like someone who'd lost. I looked like someone finally unburdened. My phone buzzed again. This one from Gloria Martinez, the same woman who once called legal over a compliance delay. Now she sends me jam every Christmas. Her text: "Heard you're out. Idiots. Let me know if you need anything. Are you okay?" She's his daughter Jesus. I stared at the screen. These weren't pity texts. These were reflexes, flinches from the nervous system still firing even after the brain had been removed. The only problem was the brain. Or at least the cortex that kept the whole thing from seizing up. I didn't reply, just archived them. Because in that leather, Rolodex was a card-faded red ink, no label. Not part of the company database. It was a direct line to one of Kelridge Tech's silent partners. A name most employees didn't even know was tied to the board. I tapped it twice with my thumb, then tucked it back between two cards, one with the birthday of our loudest investor's labradoodle, the other with a list of conference allergies. When systems fall apart, it's never the explosion that tells the truth. It's the absence, what's missing when the smoke clears. And I had the receipts. Hard copy. Handerton, filed. 3 days after my exit, Aspen Vale summoned the kingdom. Mandatory 10 a.m. all hands, catered by a vegan taco truck she found on TikTok. She stood in front of the screen in a chartreuse blazer, clearly bought for the vibes and heels she hadn't broken in. The PowerPoint sparkled, literally. Slide 1. From boring to branded, the new era begins. Welcome, team, she beamed. Or should I say, family. A collective groan rolled across the room. She mispronounced 3 departments in under a minute. Shout out to Ann Latykes. Love the payroll squad holding down the castle. She even thanked Jared from Data Infrastructure. Jared quit back in February. No one corrected her. Everyone just started mentally polishing up their LinkedIn profiles. Then came the brand refresh, a new logo, a crowdsourced tagline, a mission statement born from an Instagram poll. She showed a mood board. Beige tones, candle photos, and a Marilyn Monroe quote she was sure came from Maya Angelou. "I want this brand to feel like a warm bath," she whispered. "Not like a spreadsheet." Her eyes glittered with buzzword hysteria. That afternoon, she fired Nora, the compliance officer of 11 years, for not aligning with the new energy. Translation: Nora told her she couldn't shuffle client funds without reporting protocols. Aspen's response: "Are we really still letting fear-based systems run our company?" Then she dove into the budget portal and started rearranging numbers like Q3 could cosplay as Q2, and no one stopped her. I know this because someone from finance forwarded me a screenshot. Subject line: "Can you believe this crap?" I didn't reply. Just read the thread while sipping my Pinot on the balcony. Aspen's message was right there in bold: "Can we roll unbilled hours into the innovation fund?" And I nearly choked laughing. There is no innovation fund. I made it up once during a shareholder dinner just to dodge a question about how we buried travel reimbursements for off-the-books meetings. It became an inside joke. A ghost account with no ledger. Until now. Aspen found it buried in an old Excel index and decided it was her Swiss bank account. By Friday, 3 senior staffers had quietly texted me. One asked where the investor protocol templates lived. Another needed the early dividend schedule formulas. The third simply wrote, "I miss oxygen." I didn't respond. Not because I didn't care, but because sometimes collapse deserves silence. Let the scaffolding fall. Let them realize the lights didn't just turn on. I flipped the switch every morning before anyone got there. Aspen thought leadership was pastel graphics and manifestos on glass walls. But Kelridge survived on sweat. On whispered favors, investor birthdays remembered at 9 p.m., and late-night reforecasts done on hotel Wi-Fi during snow delays. She wasn't dismantling a system. She was shaking an invisible skeleton built from sticky notes and trust. I wasn't going to stop her. I was going to let gravity finish the job. 3 Mondays after I left, it hit. Investor Forecast Week, known internally as Don't Even Think About Vacation Week. Aspen called it Vision Alignment Check-In. She strutted into the glass-walled conference room in a silk pantsuit the color of underripe mango and told finance, Let's just drop the Q3 synthesis into the investor deck. 10 minutes max. Silence. She turned to James in IT. Can you pull the file? The one Denise used? James blinked, then said carefully, You mean the reporting matrix? Yes, that. She flicked her bejeweled wrist. Just grab it from the cloud. James scratched his neck. There is no file. What? There's no single doc. Denise built it manually, every quarter. Dozens of linked sheets, 5 pivots, and a cycle-locked forecast model. Nothing was saved as a package. The room went still. Aspen's smile slipped, and I poured myself another glass. She rebuilt it every time, manually, quarter by quarter. If you're as curious as I am about what happens when the tide keeps rising, go ahead and tap that subscribe button. The next chapter's already unfolding. Aspen blinked. Wait? She did all that herself. A voice from the back muttered. She was the system. Could have been the controller, or just the ghost of logic finally showing up. Aspen laughed nervously. Okay, that's wild. Bad infrastructure, honestly. I'll just ask IT to recreate it. James didn't even fake a smile. Yeah, no. We wouldn't know where to start. She had tabs referencing archived folders that no one's touched in years. I'm pretty sure some formulas were in Latin someone added. By day's end, Aspen was barefoot in the office heels, kicked under her desk, whispering half-sentences into her AirPods, like she was being held for ransom on weak Wi-Fi. She tried to bluff through Tuesday's investor call, pulled together random metrics from the marketing team and dumped them into a Canva deck. It had sparkle effects and bar graphs with no Y-axis labels. One slide just said, Revenue is a journey. Mid-call, one of our biggest investors cut in. Where's Denise? Aspen froze. She's moved on to where I'm not sure. Silence. I'll circle back when someone who actually understands the ledger is in the room. Click. That happened 4 more times. By Thursday, Aspen looked like a sun-dried loofah. Her spray tan had started separating like cheap lacquer. She held meetings standing up, probably to look empowered, but her voice cracked with every buzzword. She kept saying leverage when she meant loss, insisted things were on track while sweating through her overpriced linen blazer. Meanwhile, I was on my porch with a French press and a biscotti, watching hummingbirds knife the morning air like tiny caffeinated samurai. My phone kept buzzing. More whispers. Greg from Client Strategy texted, She's asking how you used to calculate rolling net margin. I told him it involved moon phases and ritual math. I didn't respond to the rest. Not out of spite, but because this wasn't schadenfreude anymore. This was vindication. Cold, carbonated, crisp. It mocked everything they once called outdated my spreadsheets, my color-coded tabs, my refusal to let bloated cloud software make decisions without context. Turns out nuance doesn't autosave. They were lost in a forest with no map because I was the map, and they'd tossed it out with the fruit tray. Then came the calendar ping. No subject, no location, no sender, but I knew. Only one person ever sent blank invites like that, Elijah Mendel. He wasn't on the website, never attended board meetings, but always got the quarterly summary 3 days early, signed in fountain pen. If Elijah wanted coffee, the iceberg had already scraped the hull. Now he just wanted to know who still had a lifeboat. We met at a little corner cafe between a vape shop and a boarded-up bridal boutique. The barista didn't make eye contact unless you tipped before the espresso finished dripping. Elijah was already seated. 2 chairs pulled out. No briefcase. No hello. Denise, he said, folding his paper like he was opening a chess match. How's retirement? I smiled, still deciding if it suits me. He chuckled. Did you know they reclassified long-term contracts as short-term revenue on the Q3 statement? I took a sip. No, but that's bold. He nodded slow, like observing a venomous snake through glass. She's not equipped, he added. I asked, feigning innocence. Aspen, Vale, Alon's daughter, the one with the influencer resume and TED Talk captions. There it was, the first crack in the executive mask. She's trying, I offered, keeping it diplomatic. But the system wasn't built for improv. Elijah, he said, offering his first name like a quiet warning. Off the record, this is a disaster. The investor group chat looks like Times Square on New Year's. Someone posted her email about, what was it? Emotional ROI. I nearly choked. She used Comic Sans. That should be a federal offense. He leaned in. They're not just grumbling. They're organizing, comparing notes, talking exits. They're asking the same question, he added. Where's Denise? I didn't nod, didn't blink. Just let the words settle like steam off my cappuccino. He sat back. I'm not asking you to come back. That train's gone, has it? I said, voice soft but deliberate. He paused, measured me. They'll offer. Eventually, out of panic, not respect. He met my eyes. Don't take it. Just be ready, Elijah said. Then he stood, adjusted his coat, and left the check behind. That evening, I did something I hadn't done since the day they pushed me out. I opened the Rolodex. Not to make a call, just to look. I flipped through the cards like someone thumbing old letters. These weren't clients. They were people. People I'd tracked through recessions, public scandals, divorces, and IPO flameouts. People who trusted me, not because I pandered, but because I delivered results and remembered their kids' birthdays without being asked. That's when the call came in. Not to my phone, to the other number, the one only 6 people ever had. Hey, the voice said, calm but edged. Can we meet? No pressure, just guidance. I paused. Friendly advice only, I replied, because I wasn't planning revenge. Not yet. I was becoming something else entirely. The kind of silence that makes people nervous. The kind that waits. The next morning it happened. Subject line. We're back bolder than ever. It landed at 9:03 a.m. Sharp from Aspen's chief growth evangelist account. Legal hadn't reviewed it. Compliance didn't know it existed. It was a Canva circus confetti animations, mismatched gradients 4 fonts, and a pixelated video of Aspen in front of a whiteboard, plastered with sticky notes. She threw out phrases like disrupt the silo and vibe funnel equals scalable. But the real damage, a live Google Sheet embedded 2 scrolls down. No password, no protections, full internal revenue projections. Burn rates, unverified pipeline numbers. One tab was literally titled Investor Story versus Actuals. By 10 a.m., phones lit up like a pinball machine on fire. An investor forwarded the email to their full portfolio group with the caption, "Is this a joke?" Another replied, "Pulling 50% until clarity." Aspen didn't notice the panic right away. She was too busy posting a LinkedIn selfie with the caption, "I said yes to risk and the universe said yes to me." By noon, her phone had rung 16 times. One of those calls, mine. Though she didn't know it. In 3 investor phones, I'm still saved under aliases, Bridge Operator, Violet K. Martha Spreadsheet. She called back. I let it ring. Then she texted, "Hey, super weird day. Can we maybe chat for like 2 sec? Nothing major? Ha. Aspen's text lit up the screen like a dying light bulb. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened a brief sent by a contact from the Investor Trust Group. Just want a friendly set of eyes, he'd said. Off the record. I told him I'd give it an hour. 3 hours later, I was deep into capital flow procedures and risk maps. By sunset, I was on Zoom with 2 private equity execs I hadn't spoken to since the 2018 acquisition panic. They sent a digital bottle of wine and asked, "So, when did you stop managing the circus?" I laughed. Not the kind of laugh that warms a room, the kind that cracks glass. Meanwhile, inside Kelridge Tech, chaos was blooming. Legal found out about the leaked investor email 10 hours too late. The design agency issued a statement they'd never approved it for release. Aspen blamed an intern that didn't exist. Then she begged HR to spin it into a transparency campaign. Someone I owe them cookies forwarded me the draft of that memo. It opened with, "At Kelridge, we believe authenticity is our strongest currency." By close of day, investor confidence had dropped 11%. Aspen scrambled to schedule a fireside chat with the top 10 stakeholders. 3 showed up. 2 kept cameras off. The third asked one question. Why wasn't Denise consulted? Aspen stammered. Said something about legacy knowledge being limiting. The call ended 17 minutes early. That night, I sat by the fireplace, flipping through my Rolodex, not dialing, just touching names. Not because I couldn't, because I didn't need to. The wall had cracked. Now the water was pouring in. At 7:42 a.m., Saturday, my other phone rang. Connecticut area code. That meant boardroom. Denise said, a gravelly voice too cheerful. Checking in. How's life post-corporate cage? I sipped my coffee, still wrapped in a robe that felt more like armor. Peaceful, I said. A pause. You wouldn't consider coming back, would you? There it was. Half joke, half prayer. Said with a chuckle that dared me to pretend it wasn't real. I let the silence stretch until he coughed. I'm flattered, I said. But I don't return to fires I didn't start. He tried to laugh, but the desperation leaked between every word, especially restructure. That afternoon, I got a message from Olivia Grant, board member strategist, and the same woman who once called me Debbie 3 quarters in a row. Now, she wanted to know if I had any documentation on compliance infrastructure. I told her the truth. I don't keep company property after termination. What I had wasn't property. It was memory. A web of whispers and workflows tucked in my brain like a hand-drawn map of forgotten shorelines. By Sunday 4, investors had reached out. No small talk, no winks. Just, can you help us build a backup vessel? One doesn't need a co-op, I corrected. Contingency fund, he muttered. Same thing, different lipstick. I didn't commit. Just offered to review the framework. They knew what that meant. Meanwhile, Aspen was playing whack-a-mole with flaming spreadsheets. Her emergency investor email subject line, full clarity, big wins coming, was a 5-alarm fire in serif font. She opened by thanking stakeholders for their unwavering compass, then claimed Q3 numbers were fluid and Q4 would triple trajectory. She said synergistic 6 times, misquoted Steve Jobs, and called the firm's burn rate energetic capital reallocation. One paragraph included internal comments from marketing. Should we admit the Dropbox crash or just say it's a pivot LMK? It went out like that, untouched. By midnight, 4 major investors had begun pulling liquidity. I knew because one of them CC'd me. Accident or message? Hard to say. Subject, line enough. By morning, the whispers were growing legs. XYZ capital divesting. Aspen, no show on the internal call. Is Mendel shopping the firm? I closed my laptop. No smirk, no satisfaction. This wasn't revenge anymore. It was inevitability. You don't build a seaworthy company out of vision boards and ring lights, then act shocked when it sinks. And I wasn't the storm. I was the tide. And tides don't beg to be seen. They just rise. Earnings call day used to be sacred. No PTO, no dentist appointments, no distractions. We'd iron blazers, triple-check numbers, and I'd personally make sure no exec had garlic breath or pit stains. But now it was Aspen Circus. And at 9:17 a.m., the first panic text hit my phone. The text came at 9:17 a.m. Short, shaky. Where are the final numbers? Do you have them? By 9:29, they'd realized no one had locked the Q4 forecasts. No one could even find them. Aspen had assumed the reporting team had some auto-pull script. There wasn't one. There never had been. I was the script. At 9:41, she called legal. At 9:44, she tried IT. At 9:47, she called me. Well, she called the number she inherited from the internal directory, still marked emergency contact institutional. Still routed to a backup line I kept out of pure sentiment. I watched the screen light up, then silenced it. At 9:52, she left a voicemail. I didn't listen. I just sipped my tea and stared out the window at a squirrel dragging a slice of pizza up a palm tree like it owed rent. The world felt properly unhinged. At 10:06, the earnings call began. No prep, no slide deck, no poise. Aspen opened with, "We've had an exciting quarter of adaptive restructuring. Numbers are in review." Then silence. An investor unmuted. You don't have the numbers. Aspen hesitated. We're confirming validations. Just a small misalignment. You don't have the numbers, he repeated. Another voice joined. Is Denise available? She usually? She no longer works here, Aspen snapped. But we have everything under control. Control! That word landed like a clown horn at a funeral. Somewhere on speaker, the owner's voice cut in. What the hell is going on? Aspen's voice cracked. I don't know. Okay. No one told me she built this thing like a cursed Excel fortress. The call cut out abrupt, muffled, and soggy with panic. By noon, the stock had dropped 7%. The board launched a so-called Reputation Recovery Task Force. It mostly involved updating the Twitter bio and sending overpriced fruit baskets to journalists. Too late. The story had legs. Whispers became bulletins. And the investors. They weren't just angry. They were scared. They didn't want reassurance. They wanted answers. Real ones. Not animated slide decks. Not Canva gradients. And definitely not from someone who thought growth trajectory was a vibe. They wanted the map, the system. And I was both. Not vibes. That night, Aspen sat alone in the office, surrounded by unopened swag boxes and a half-eaten acai bowl. The ring light she used for her New Era launch still glowed faintly, casting pale, exhausted shadows across her whiteboard of dreams. No one called. No one texted. The only sound was the laptop fan and the final ping of an unanswered Slack. She picked up her phone, scrolled to my name, hovered but didn't tap. Just stared at the screen. At the empty calendar. At the echo of a system she thought she'd inherited but never actually understood. Across town, I turned on my record player. Let the storm do what storms do. The room was carpeted, quiet, neutral tones. A hotel conference suite where billion-dollar pivots happened next to melon cubes and decaf. 5 investors sat around the table. No Patagonia vests. Just tired suits and sharper eyes than they'd had 3 months ago. No handshakes, no small talk, just me and a manila folder. I slid it across the table. Inside, a complete printout of the internal crisis protocols I built over a decade. Manual ledger corrections, investor forecasting sequences, escalation trees. All in my handwriting. Color-coded, annotated. On top, a sticky note. This is what I was fired for. Silence. Paul, if I remembered right, cleared his throat. Page 2, his brow furrowed. Page 5, he muttered, Jesus. Page 9, he looked up. You did all this manually? I didn't answer. Didn't need to. They'd already seen Aspen's spreadsheet from last week with visible formulas. The Canva decks, the typos, the slide that said, Brandfield's Q4 unicorn sparkle. They'd seen enough. I'm not here to return, I said quietly. You picked your ship. You picked your captain. What do you want? One asked. I shook my head. Nothing. I'm already gone. That afternoon, the withdrawals began. Quiet, clean, precise. By end of day, the firm's valuation had dropped 23%. By Friday, Aspen's LinkedIn gone. Instagram scrubbed, Twitter deleted. Her final public post. A blurry picture of her dog in a bucket hat. Comments disabled. The company released a press statement about realignment and digital evolution. No one cared. I didn't gloat, didn't smile. I just moved on. Took a call from a competitor on Monday. Signed paperwork Tuesday. By Wednesday, I had a new badge, same title, a better desk, and double the pay. With a window that actually opened. They didn't want reinvention. They wanted results. On Friday after lunch, I took the long way to the parking garage, past the building where it all started. Same mirrored glass. Same revolving door. A delivery guy was struggling with a stack of branded water bottles, probably leftovers from Aspen's wellness integration kit stunt. I paused. My phone buzzed. Company line. Apparently, I was still in the system. Still listed under institutional knowledge. I let it ring twice. Then hit mute. No voicemail. Just silence. The kind that settles after the storm, when the ones who ignored the forecast finally understand what all the warnings were for. I slipped the phone into my coat pocket and smiled. If you made it to the end of my story, thank you. Seriously. You have no idea what it means to know someone's still listening when the noise dies down. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What would you have done in my shoes? Drop a comment below, because every time someone like you shares their perspective, it reminds people like me that we're not invisible. Not anymore. If you believe experience still matters, if you've ever been pushed out quietly for being too efficient, too direct, or heaven forbid, too good at your job, then I hope my story reminded you that sometimes silence is power. You don't always need to fight loud to win. Sometimes you just need to hold the line, document everything, and let gravity take care of the rest. So here's my advice. Never give away your worth for free, and never let anyone treat your knowledge like an optional download. You're not outdated. You're the blueprint. So support others who've been sidelined, speak up when you can, and when you can't, build your own quiet empire. And hey, don't forget to subscribe. If you want more stories like mine, if you believe in justice, delivered with poised strategy and a little black coffee stick around. We're just getting started.